Hello, welcome back to the other side of the sale. This is Michael Jackson coming at you again. I want to take a moment to thank everybody for liking, sharing, and subscribing to my videos, building this channel, and helping me along the way. I really do appreciate that. Today, I'm going to talk about the 5 types of inmates you're going to meet when you come to prison. And it was a subject that came along to me, and people were asking me about it, and I thought, there are several types of people, inmates you're going to meet when you come to prison, but these are the top 5 in my book, and they're the most common. The number one type of inmate that you're going to meet, the first type is the tough guy. And a tough guy, he comes into prison, he walks in, he comes in intake, he's got a hard edge to him, he wants to make sure everybody knows that he's a badass, that he's not one to mess with. He's the guy that's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to have a real shitty attitude. He's going to have a real bad attitude. He's going to walk around and mean mug you. And he's trying to make sure that you understand not to mess with him, not to come in his space and things like that. I've encountered many of those tough guys over the years, and they a lot of them come off as the tough guy, and then whenever it gets down to time to get down, they lock up on you, and then there's very few of them that I've encountered that actually will go to the end being the tough guy. Some cases there are guys that will, stand on what they believe, stand 10 toes deep into it. But there's a lot of guys that put that front on. They walk around and they want to talk shit to the officers or talk shit to the staff, talk shit to the other inmates. But then, whenever somebody calls them out, and another inmate said, "Hit the cell, let's rock." They don't want that, because a lot of guys can't fight, and a lot of guys can't do anything without a weapon. And in a lot of cases, you don't have time to get a weapon. So therefore, that kind of thing comes down off of them when it comes down to time to really actually do anything. I've seen a lot of tough guys that approach an officer, talk shit to the officer sprays them, and then officer assistance comes. 5 officers jump on him and smash him, hook him up, and take him to isolation. Then it's a different story. So that's the number one on this list. Number 2 is the normal guy. This is a guy that come to prison. He has never been in trouble before. He's made one mistake, and he ends up in prison. This guy, the only thing he's trying to do is put his head down, stay out of the way, and just do his time. And he's going to not be loud, boisterous, or draw attention to himself. He's just the guy that's going to do what he's told to do, be quiet, stay out of everybody's business, and just do his time. And the normal guy is the guy that, he just doesn't have that background of being arrested a whole bunch of times, getting in trouble, doing all the things to be known. So when he comes in, he has no affiliation with nobody. He has no gang affiliation. He doesn't know anybody. Because there's a lot of guys that come to prison, they know everybody because they're used to seeing each other because they're always in and out. But we'll get to that guy. The third guy is just the weak guy. You're always going to have inmates that you encounter are just weak, and they're victim prone, and they're always getting victimized in one way, shape, or form. This is the guy that gets smacked around, disrespected, and in prison, if you allow somebody to disrespect you, if you allow somebody to just punk you out, then you're going to live a very hard life, because you're not going to like that at all. That's going to be something that sucks for you. So if you've got 5, 6 years to do, and you're that weak guy, and you've once been established as being weak, then everybody's going to disrespect you. People might take stuff from you. They might, humiliate you, smack you around. All these types of things happen to the weak guys. And a lot of weak guys end up going into protective custody, what we call checking in. They check in. They can't live in general population because they're just weak. Um, I've had a guy. He came to my office one time and he told me, he said, "Hey, I need to check in. I can't live on the dorm." And I'm like, "Why can't you live on a dorm?" And he's like, "Man, I'm just weak. I'm a pussy. I can't fight. I'm scared, and I'm just weak. Um, I'm not used to this lifestyle, and I can't live out there, and I'm afraid I'm going to die. They're going to hurt me." So, guys like that, we put in protective custody, put them on different, a dorm, what we call a weaker dorm, where maybe they can live together and live with some other weaker guys and maybe survive. Sometimes you end up having to move facilities because they're that weak and they're that victim prone. And as a facility, it's your responsibility to make sure that even though a guy may be weak or just that guy, you still have to protect him, even though he may be a child molester, he may be just a piece of shit or something, but you still have to protect the guy. Now, the fourth guy on this list is a guy that anybody's ever been in prison knows. That's just a weirdo. You'll get these guys that come in prison. They might have mental issues, or they might be a weirdo by acting. But the reason they do that is for protection. Because a lot of guys, a lot of inmates won't mess with an inmate because they might feel sorry for him because he just might be just so out there, and he might just be such a just a clown or whatever you want to call him, that they just don't mess with him because they might talk to themselves. They may go stand in the corner and be looking up in the ceiling and talking to voices, hear voices, and that them a lot of these guys may should have been in a mental institution or something like that, but they end up in prison. So while they're in prison, sometimes they're just housed in general population, and they're mental, and they do hear voices, and they see things, and they're just a weirdo. They might be filthy. They don't take showers properly. They don't clean themselves. They, walk around doing nasty things, picking their nose, and don't wipe themselves. All kinds of stuff. You see these weirdos, and you have to deal with them as staff people, but inmates deal with them a lot of times in other ways. Because I've seen inmates beat guys up and throw them in the shower and turn the water on and tell you're going to take a fucking shower if you're going to live up here. And that kind of stuff happens a lot. And then, there's times whenever, the weirdo irritates other inmates so bad that they get stomped out or hurt. So, when you're incarcerated and you're in prison like that, being a weirdo is not a good thing at all, ever. And the last but not least is what I call the guys that are doing a life sentence. They just don't know it. I call them, guys doing 5 to life. And these guys are just repeat offenders. They come in, they do, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, get out, come back, do another stint, another new charges, come back, and they do this their whole lives, and they end up doing a life sentence, but they do it in increments. That's why I call them the 5 to lifers. 5 to lifers, if you've ever been around the system, if you've been in prison, if you've worked in a prison, you know who I'm talking about. This guy is the guy that you've seen over a period of years. He was 20 something when he first come to prison. Now he's in his 40s or 50s. And you've seen him grow up in prison because the best thing he can do is go out, make it a month or two. Sometimes these guys don't even make it a day. They don't even make it 24 hours, and they're right back in jail. And then they, work their way back through the system, end up back in prison. So the 5 to lifers, the guy that you can't tell nothing to. 5 to lifers, the guy that knows it all. You can't tell him nothing. He doesn't want to change. He basically warehouses when he's in prison. And he constantly is the guy that knows everything. You can't tell him nothing. You can't do nothing with him. He doesn't want to program. He doesn't want to get a trade. He doesn't want to go to school, get a GED or anything like that. And this is the guy that ends up doing the life sentence on his own terms, because the judge didn't give him a life sentence. He gave himself a life sentence by repeating his cycle of destruction. It's like being on a hamster wheel and you're going nowhere. That's this guy. And if you've ever been incarcerated or if you've ever worked in a prison, you know this guy. You know, you see it all the time. So if you look at these 5 guys, if you ever worked in a situation, you know what I'm talking about. The tough guy, the normal guy, the weak guy, the weirdo, and the 5 to lifer. You know them all. You can put names to them, and you could relate to everything I'm saying if you've ever been in these situations. And if you're that guy, if you're one of these guys, you know what I'm talking about. But hopefully by making these videos and putting this stuff out here, these young guys that come out and are out in the street doing these things, hopefully some of this registers with you so you understand that you just don't want to be in prison. You don't want to make a lifestyle out of being in prison and all that kind of thing. If you're a correctional staff, correctional officer, correctional, counselor, whatever you are, hopefully sharing some of these things you'll understand and you'll be able to do your job better, or you can relate to it. At some point, we'll be doing some different things. Podcasts, we'll be doing some joint ventures and doing some collaboration with other channels and things like that. I did get hit up by another channel that saw me and they want to do a collab, and we're going to do that in the future. But I thought this one, 5 types of inmates that you'll meet in prison, was a good one. And remember, you always want to stay on the other side of the cell.